Welcome to the Leaderonomics show. Today we have the pleasure of having the Group Managing Director of Surya Capital, Madam Ng Kiat Min, here with us. Thanks so much for joining us, and it's an absolute pleasure. I mean, you're also the MD for Sabah Ports, right?
Yes.
So big roles, huge company in Sabah, and you have very interesting background because you come from a background in finance, right?
Yes.
Or accounting and finance, right?
Accountant by profession.
Accountant. So tell us your journey. How did you end up running a port by starting as an accountant or a finance?
Okay, probably I'll start from talking about when I first joined Surya Group. In fact, I first joined...
was that your first role?
Well, I first joined Surya as a senior manager in corporate development.
Okay.
At that point, I would say this is a turning point for Surya Group because at that point, Surya was in finance sector before, and because of merger policy,
That's right.
all the banks were sold off, and Surya like sitting on a pile of cash, looking for core business. So I joined at a point when Surya was looking for core business to stay listed. So in fact, when I joined Surya Away, I was like on board looking for core business, and I was like going to the ports, started negotiation, and the whole process took about 3 years. So when we identified the port business, at that point we were sort of saying, look, okay, government was talking about, in a way, disposing of assets because at that point just change the government. I think the state coffer is like quite low, and there are a lot of development need to be done. That includes the port structure. And when we took over, when we thought about this project, we were saying, look, how do we then, structure something to pay the government, something which is fair and reasonable. And the fact that we are 51% owned by the state government, so whatever we do is like deemed related party, and then we are listed, and then listing requirement to be complied with. So we have to go through a process of you have to, because right pocket, left pocket, and then we have to get the approval of the minority shareholders, because in this case, related party transaction, majority shareholders cannot vote. So we have to find a model which is acceptable to the state government, and also to the shareholders as well, in the best interest of the shareholders. So that was the situation when I joined Surya.
Okay, so you helped to dispose of the capital businesses or the financial.
No, when I joined, there were already cash there. Just but of course you have to keep reporting to the Bursa Malaysia in terms of how you then utilize the cash that you have, and we have a certain timeline to stay listed. So time factor is also there. You have to, if you have not really met the timeline, then you have to ask for extension, give reasons and things like that. So this is a situation whereby we have to, of course, we got consulted, and also we have to look at various aspects.
So your job was to go shopping to pick up something?
We have to really, brainstorm and think of a solution as to how to pay the government. So we, of course, work closely with a lot of stakeholders, then to consult the state government, and usually we come up with a model, which is like you forecast you look into the state economy, you forecast like over 30 years, because it's like a concession model, and in terms of the cash flow, what sort of cash flow you generated from the business, and you discount back and to pay the government. So there are a lot of thinking, and that's where being an accountant come handy, because at that point I was kind of excited, because in finance there are a lot of topics you learned, and there's one particular in corporate finance called capital assets pricing model. That's when we can actually, then I said, wow, then I get to use this model to apply that in the reality in your working life, So yeah, that's
so fascinating. So you essentially help in the formation and setup of the ports.
Oh yes, start right from the beginning.
Right at the beginning.
Yes. And the beginning, as in the new business for Surya to today. So in a way I started from beginning, and of course right to the point when I even participated in drafting the agreement, all these details, and then working with a lot of stakeholders.
And how did you transition? I mean, so you were CFO for Surya for a number of years.
I was a senior manager corporate development in Surya in the first place. Then when we signed the agreement, then I was sent to or seconded to Sabah Ports, Sdn Bhd, as the general manager, corporate finance and development. At the point, another problem, because when we took over the ports, the paid up capital is only 100 million, but then we were asked to build a 400 million port, a greenfield port, it's like given a piece of sea, then you have to build a port, the kind of thing. And then, because just 100 million paid up, you're going to pay the government 150 million. And then you have to pay the authority another like 90 million for something they've done. They said offsite work earlier, things like that. So you are like, faced with another problem whereby you look for a lot of money to start up a company. And that's where I was.
And that's Sabah Ports, and essentially you solve all these
so
financial
when
issues.
I first joined Sabah Ports, of course, I was never from port business, but because of the 3 years studying the port model, in a way I learned a bit, in terms of what is business about and all those. And then when I went to Sabah Ports, I straight away, have to look at for the fund to build ports and other than finance, of course, I'm in charge of HR as well, legal. At that point, anything other than port operations is under. But
you were also so port operations was something that you did not dabble at that point in time,
in terms of actual operations, but corporate services supporting, because as you know that in Sabah Ports we run all the ports in Sabah. Right. We have 8 ports under our purview, and of course we have shared services and all the services shared services like HR, legal, finance is all actually centralized at the HQ, and I was like overall in charge of all those.
Fantastic.
But of course, the first thing is finance. How you then?
And there was a need at that point in time to really restructure the organization.
Because the model is such that governments kind of pass over the whole burden of building the infrastructure to cater for the state economy in that sense. So
I'm sure we've got a lot more things to talk about. We're going to take a quick break right now. We'll be right back here on the Leaderonomics Show. We have a special session today with Madam Ng from Surya Capital. Welcome back to the Leaderonomics Show. We're with Madam Ng from Surya Capital. Madam Ng, we were talking a little bit about your transition, going into Sabah Ports, restructuring it, and then essentially setting up the way for it to, be sustainable and enable it to be a successful venture. And tell us a bit about the transition then. You then moved from that role to become CFO of Surya Capital, the entire group. What was happening there, and how did that transpire?
Okay, after a number of years in Sabah Ports, I kind of get a hang of in terms of operation and all those. Of course, my focus then was finance, looking for the fund, while working with my other colleagues on, we also, actually I was also heading, although I'm non-operation in a way, not directly, but I was heading the committee for the tariff revision. Yeah, because tariff is something that we have to work on, because in terms of the rates we charge are very much regulated, and our tariff is like 30 over years already, and we need to restructure the tariff so that it's in tandem with the current day's operation. Those are quite outdated, and I was like heading the committee without any consultant in that sense, because at that point I was thinking our people know the operation best, because we are very peculiar in a sense, because Sabah Ports, we are actually managing 8 ports as opposed to 1 port in other parts of Malaysia.
Yeah, because you have Sandakan.
So I was heading the department managing people, so in a way also have a little bit more in depth in terms of operations.
So and you didn't, there's no issue right, in terms of a finance person getting heavily involved in operation, and you managed to learn those things, and you managed
to me it's not much of an issue. To me it's like you have to find your passion, you have the passion about your job, and of course you have the competence, and give your best to it, and to see. I always ask myself, how do I value add, how can I contribute in terms of what I possess in that sense. So I try to give my best. So I normally focus on the area that I'm good at. So so if given a choice, I've got a very experienced colleague who could help out. We work as a team.
Okay.
Then I can probably give in my best in terms of the area I'm good at.
Sure. And so then the late Dr. Fauzi kind of asked you to step into the CFO role, right?
Yes, actually at that point of my career, I was given a choice. At that point, I was a corporate services finance GM. Then at that point, the CFO of Surya, left the group, and that they're actually looking for a person to fill the position. And the late Dr. Fauzi was kind enough to actually give me a choice, either to be the CEO or the CFO of the group. Yeah. But as I say...
so that was for Sabah Ports, right?
Yeah, COO is like overall in charge of operation in Sabah Ports. CFO is like for the group overall, in charge of the finance for the whole group. As I say, I've got colleagues who have been working, all their life in the ports. They're very good at operations, And, on the other hand, for Surya, other than the ports, there are other businesses also they need somebody to take care of. So I was thinking, and I'm actually an accountant by profession,
back to your roots, right?
Yeah, in a way, I suppose I can, I can also help out in that area. So that's why I took the decision to be the CFO of Surya Group. Yeah.
And finally, you transitioned to be CEO of the group, or group managing director. Talk us through, that challenge, and what are some of the early struggles and some of the highlights of your, this is a couple of years now, right? I think about 2 years now as group managing director.
I would say more than almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years,
because
right?
I was like acting for
that's right, for
a period of about 8-9 months before I was.
So almost 3 years, right? So talk us through the early days and some of the challenge, and because it happened also very sudden, right? With the sudden passing of Datuk Fauzi.
Yes, indeed, right? It was a kind of shock, In fact, the late Dr. Fauzi did confide to me that he wanted to, to just take it easy. But then his intended retirement is like, say, November. He was telling me, please be prepared. At that point, of course, he was telling me, think about that, and But I was thinking, no, I'm happy just be, helping as a CFO. You continue, I got no problem with that. But just it happened earlier than expected. In a way, he subtly kind of prepared me in a way, because in a lot of occasions he kind of let me or authorized me to do, attend meeting on behalf and taking, a
leadership role.
Leadership role in a way, and supporting all the way. There are a few instances whereby there are problem challenges, and he know for a fact I speak my mind, and he appreciated that, and he always tell me that I think you can actually, contribute in even a few boards in terms of your knowledge and your experience. So and at that point, as I say, I always think like, I'm quite action oriented in that sense. I always want to think how I can value add, resolve problems in that sense. Yeah. So, and I got all his support all this while. And talking about the role of CFO, then of course, talking about challenges, we have quite a few. Dealing with the government, dealing with operation issues, dealing with people and all those. But he's ever, he's quite open-minded about what I've got to say, and in a lot of ways supporting my opinion.
When you became CEO, right, with to some extent with Datuk Fauzi gone, right, you would have to stand on your own 2 feet, take those challenges. How do you think you did? It was very. I'm sure it would have been very like a baptism of fire at the, sudden leadership that you need to have the vision. What are some lessons that you think you learned and that you think were important lessons that you got in the early days as the CEO or the MD or group MD of the company?
The lesson learned is, like as I always said, that you have to be passionate about what you're doing. You just carry on doing and carry it out. What you need to do, and give the best that you have. So far, I'm fortunate to have a good team of colleagues, supporting staff. Yeah, so I don't think there's any problem along the way. I'm grateful to have a good support team, and also board as well. The board has been there, very supportive as well. Yeah, because although I was not board member then, but in a way they let me, in a way. In terms of ideas, and they're quite supportive of the things that we need to do and things like that.
So really,
quite open about
really
it.
Be passionate and go wholeheartedly.
And give your best.
And give your best, and do the right thing, right?
Yeah, do the right thing.
Don't
correct.
be afraid. Don't be afraid to say what you want. And so on and so forth.
Yes, I will say that I'm known to like speaking my mind.
Yeah.
So, and I always tell my predecessor, you know, there are things that you may not agree with me, but I will not say yes to whatever your suggestion is. I want to give you my opinion. Of course, it's your prerogative not to agree with me at
and
the
you
end.
expect them
for
to
whatever
do
reason,
likewise
I'll
also.
accept. Yeah,
And
but
you
I think I will want to just say my piece and let you hear, you know, what are
Fantastic.
the options. Yeah.
Some great nuggets of wisdom there from Madam Ng. We're going to be right back here with the Leaderonomics Show with Madam Ng from Surya Capital. Welcome back to the Leaderonomics Show. We are with Madam Ng Kiat Min from Surya Capital. You know, every Leaderonomics Show, we have this thing called the Thinkonomics Challenge. Okay. And in this challenge, essentially, we will have to, we'll have a little bit of a time, and I'm going to randomly ask a couple of questions, and I need you to answer them as fast as you can, right? As fast as you can, and we'll see how many we can get through, right? All right, so I'm going to start the timer. And let's go. Okay, number one. Is it possible for a society to be overdeveloped?
It's not possible.
So there's always opportunity?
Always opportunity for room for growth, I would think, yep.
Okay. If you were made president, or in our case, prime minister of your country, what actions would you take to make your country a giving country with a giving community?
I would encourage love all and serve all.
Fantastic. And if you knew today was your last day on earth, how would you spend it?
Oh, I've spent with my loved ones as much as possible.
As much as possible, the whole day, huh? Okay, would the world be better off or worse off with a time machine?
Worse off, I think.
Why?
With a time machine, meaning you can go back and forth and everything will be chaotic.
Because you keep changing,
yeah,
something like Back to the Future. Okay, now maybe this is applicable to your company too, but how should a company really give back to the community?
Be conscious of the actions that you take when you execute plans. Be conscious about environment and other factors other than just profit and things.
Okay, time's up, but maybe I'll just squeeze one last question. Does my level of giving make me a better person? So does my level
yes
of
and
giving...
no.
Yes and no.
Yep.
Okay, true. All right, so you passed the Thinkonomics challenge. Well done. No, that was good. Those are some good answers though. You know, it's very interesting, you know, you are in the pot business. And traditionally, it's a very men-heavy, or you know, kind of. It's a space where men tend to prevail and be leaders there. But it's interesting that you have sort of triumphed and become the leader in a very male-dominated industry. How is it? I mean, is it tough? I mean, what are there challenges? I mean, in terms of navigating this space and being able to assert yourself and lead the pot business in this very male-dominated industry.
Yeah, it's true that the pot business has been like male-dominated, but when I took over the role, I'm not too conscious about gender issue. As I always said that, you know, I just be sincere, truthful, and do the best I could in the area I'm good at, and you know, and I encourage teamwork. So gender issue not so much of a problem. I of course, you know, generally gender in every way you have some issues, but in terms of the workplace, I don't really consciously feel it, because I always say that I'm, you know, action-oriented.
But was it challenging for you to, you know, as you navigated, you know, different roles? Were there issues that cropped up, you know, with men saying, well, what's this woman doing, you know, being our boss and so on, or it didn't really happen there in Sabah?
Well, if you say, well, not in the workplace in that sense, but when you go out representing the company, you know,
there were questions.
Then you'll be always the only woman in meetings and all that. So when you appear at a meeting, generally people will say, what's this lady? She could be just a secretary or so, you know. That's the
assumptions that
assumptions always that you get. But once you be involved yourself and people say where you're coming from, then you get acceptance.
Yeah. And once I guess they hear the quality of your speech.
Yeah, so
and your
through
talk.
time, you know, you make friends and
you
get
win,
things
you
done.
earn the respect and stuff like that. And it's interesting, your leadership team, I mean, your head of Port City is a woman, and you have quite a few women in your leadership team, right? Was this something that you went out consciously to design, or somehow it happened that you ended up building a team that has a number of, I mean, many companies in Malaysia or Peninsula struggle with getting women into the leadership, Here in a very male-dominated space, you've successfully built a very strong, women-led leadership team. Talk us through that a little bit.
Actually, it's not by design, it's my merits actually. Part of it is of my predecessor doing. Well, my predecessor is a male, the late Dr. Fauzi. He's quite open about gender issues, emphasize on merits. So it's like things is just developed in such a way that at the end we have a woman team. As I say, not by design, but by merits. So you're talking about diversity. Of course, diversity is good. At the management level, I have until I think a few months ago, it's like 100%. But lately, I've got a male. The group internal audit is a male. So, but majority are still women managers.
And it gives you a different sort of challenge, right?
Yes. So, because normally you talk about gender diversity, you want, you want to involve women more. But in this case,
you want more men.
In
a men's industry.
You like to have, as I said, diversity is always good. So I got no qualm also. Having 100% women.
And it's very interesting. I mean, there's a lot of lessons I think we can learn from you. But if you were to address a group of CEOs, let's say, you were speaking at a conference with a bunch of CEOs, and you were to give them advice, on how to successfully build their business or scale it and grow it and to be a successful leader, right? What sort of advice would you impart to these leaders, if you could give a couple of pieces of advice?
A group of CEOs.
But
I suppose everybody has got their own experience. But for a start, I would say that you encourage people to find the passion, encourage their passion, and give the best in terms of doing what they love to do. Because to me, to get good results, people have to be passionate doing the job. So it's important that people doing something that they like. So and also of course in terms of sustainability, succession planning is important as well. Grooming future leaders like what you're doing now. It's a great job.
And actually, Surya, I mean, to be fair, Datuk Fauzi did invest quite a bit in terms of building a portfolio of capable people to take Surya forward. You are included, I guess, in the succession planning, right? So it's something that you experience yourself, right? That the effects of succession planning. So how do, I mean, in terms of in Surya itself, like how are you preparing the next generation of leaders to take over from you and the others in senior leadership?
In fact, this topic of succession planning is not an easy subject, I would think, because in the port business, we have a large group of people who have been doing the job all their life. And then you're talking about grooming the next level. Of course, you have the challenge of embracing technology and all that. So it's like you have a bunch of people good at the job in terms of the port operation per se, who may not be so ready to embrace technology, and also a group of young people who has got certain mindset, in terms of
managing that
managing that part, and
at the same time being able to be future thinking about where to take your business.
So
forward.
You're talking about running a business, you're talking about sustainability. So to be sustainable, I think succession planning and planning forward is very important.
And speaking of young person, it's my last question, right? If a young person is listening or watching this interview, and they're like, I want to be like Madam Ng. I want to emulate her. I want to be a successful leader. And this person may be just graduating from university, right? What sort of advice would you give a young person, who's starting out in life?
I would say, find your passion, and also be good at the thing you're good at, be competent, and give the best. And always ask yourself, how can I contribute? How can I value add?
Very consistent.
I will hold on to that.
If you know what you're passionate about, you get to invest your life in it. You get to be really good at it. You get to be very excited about it. So, wonderful piece of advice. Thank you for this session, Madam Ng. We've been speaking to Madam Ng Kiat Min from Surya Capital Group, the Group Managing Director.